Welcome back. What if one of the most overlooked Lincoln Bicentennial cents tells a story far greater than its face value? Hidden in four remarkable designs are clues that serious collectors study, historical details most people never notice, and the reasons a select few authenticated examples stand apart. Let's take a closer look and uncover what makes this iconic Lincoln cent series so fascinating. First coin. Few modern American coins have transformed an ordinary pocket change design into such a fascinating collector story as the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial penny featuring the formative years reverse. At first glance, it appears to be another 1-cent coin, yet a closer inspection reveals a scene unlike anything previously seen on the Lincoln cent. Abraham Lincoln is shown seated on a log in Indiana, taking a brief pause from splitting rails while reading a book, a powerful image symbolizing the determination to educate himself despite the hardships of frontier life. Millions of these coins entered circulation, but only a relatively small percentage survived in exceptional condition, and an even smaller number possessed the characteristics that advanced collectors actively pursue. As this story unfolds, you'll discover why certain authenticated examples have realized remarkable prices in the collector market, while most remain ordinary circulation finds, and you'll see how condition, rarity, minting quality, and expert authentication combine to determine what a particular coin may truly be worth. The story behind this remarkable design begins in 2009, the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. To honor the 200th anniversary of one of America's most influential presidents, the United States Mint released 4 different reverse designs representing distinct stages of Lincoln's life. The formative years design commemorates his youth in Indiana between 1816 and 1830, when Lincoln developed an extraordinary passion for learning despite living in a rugged frontier environment with little formal schooling. Designed by Richard Masters and sculpted by Charles Vickers, the reverse captures Lincoln resting from physical labor with an open book in his hands and an axe leaning against the log, emphasizing that his greatest strength was not simply hard work, but an unrelenting desire for knowledge. The familiar obverse portrait of Lincoln by Victor David Brenner remained unchanged, preserving more than a century of continuity for the Lincoln cent while pairing it with a fresh historical narrative. These coins were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints for circulation, with additional proof versions produced in San Francisco for collectors. Together, they became part of one of the most historically meaningful one-year commemorative circulating coin programs ever issued by the United States Mint. Although these cents were produced during a challenging economic period marked by the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, the Mint continued its commitment to celebrating Lincoln's legacy through all 4 bicentennial designs. The formative years penny was manufactured using the familiar bronzal composition introduced in 1982, consisting primarily of a zinc core with a thin copper plating, giving it a composition of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. Each coin weighs approximately 2.5 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and features a plain edge. Hundreds of millions were struck at both Philadelphia and Denver, making the design widely available in circulation. However, mintage alone never tells the full story. High-speed production, contact marks during transport, weak strikes on certain dies, and years of circulation dramatically reduced the number of examples that still display vibrant original surfaces. For that reason, collectors often search through rolls, mint sets, and original bankrupt rolls in hopes of finding coins that escaped the wear and abrasions that affected the overwhelming majority of surviving pieces. Once collectors begin examining these pennies under magnification, the differences between ordinary and exceptional examples become surprisingly obvious. The sharpness of Lincoln's facial features, the crisp detail in the folds of his clothing, the definition of the book, and the texture of the log all reveal how well an individual coin was struck. Equally important is the condition of the obverse portrait, where contact marks across Lincoln's cheek and jaw can significantly reduce a coin's grade. Professional grading services evaluate these coins using the Sheldon scale, assigning grades from poor 1 through mint state 70. Specialists also classify copper-plated cents by color designation, identifying them as brown, or red. Fully red examples retaining nearly all of their original mint luster command the strongest collector interest because the brilliant copper surface gradually darkens through oxidation over time. An authenticated mint, state 67 red example from either major circulation mint can attract substantial attention, with market values sometimes reaching roughly $1,200 to $2,100 depending on certification, eye appeal, and current demand. Coins with lower mint state grades remain collectible but generally trade for considerably less because they are more readily available. The greatest excitement surrounding this issue often involves mint errors and die varieties rather than ordinary circulation strikes. Collectors carefully inspect every formative year's cent for doubled dies, dramatic off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, retained cuds, and other genuine production mistakes created during the minting process. Some errors are visually dramatic enough to transform an otherwise common cent into a highly desirable collectible. Even subtle doubled lettering or unusual die polishing lines can generate considerable interest when confirmed by recognized specialists. Authentication is especially important because post-mint damage can easily resemble legitimate mint errors to inexperienced collectors. Genuine error coins typically display characteristics consistent with the striking process rather than accidental damage after leaving the mint. Certified examples featuring significant, well-documented errors have sold for several $1,000s in competitive markets, while ordinary examples lacking authenticated minting anomalies generally remain far more affordable. The difference illustrates why careful examination and professional verification are essential before assigning extraordinary value to any individual coin. Authentication has become increasingly important as interest in modern Lincoln cents continues to grow. Professional grading companies examine every detail under magnification, verifying that the surfaces, plating, strike characteristics, and overall appearance are consistent with genuine mint production. Counterfeiters rarely target ordinary circulated examples, but altered mint marks, artificially enhanced surfaces, manipulated colors, and even fabricated error coins occasionally appear in the marketplace. Collectors should pay close attention to the coin's weight, diameter, edge, and magnetic properties while comparing suspected varieties with documented reference photographs published by respected numismatic organizations. A genuine coin should exhibit consistent design details, proper lettering, and natural luster appropriate for its assigned grade. Cleaning is one of the most common mistakes made by well-meaning owners, yet even light polishing can permanently damage the delicate copper plating and significantly reduce collector value. Preservation is remarkably simple. Handle coins only by their edges, store them in inert archival holders or certified slabs, maintain a stable, low-humidity environment, and avoid exposure to chemicals or abrasive materials that can accelerate discoloration or surface deterioration. As certified populations have matured over the years, collectors have gained a clearer understanding of which examples truly deserve premium prices. While millions of formative years cents exist, relatively few achieve the highest mint state grades because flawless preservation from the moment of striking is exceptionally uncommon. Coins graded MS68 red or finer represent an elite category where even microscopic imperfections can prevent a higher designation. Auction records demonstrate that registry-quality examples with exceptional eye appeal often inspire spirited bidding among advanced Lincoln cent specialists competing to improve their collections. Authenticated specimens at this level have realized prices in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $4,000 when demand, certification, and preservation align, although such results are reserved for outstanding coins rather than typical circulation finds. Proof versions struck in San Francisco offer their own collecting appeal with mirror-like fields and frosted devices. But they are evaluated within different market categories and should not be directly compared with business strike circulation issues. The enduring appeal of the 2009 formative years Lincoln Bicentennial penny extends beyond its potential value because it represents a rare moment when American circulating coinage successfully blended history, artistry, and education into everyday commerce. Every authenticated premium example tells two parallel stories, one about Abraham Lincoln's relentless pursuit of knowledge under difficult frontier conditions, and another about the extraordinary journey a seemingly ordinary 1-cent coin can take from the mint to the collections of dedicated numismatists. Whether discovered in pocket change, preserved in an original mint roll, or purchased through a respected auction house, each coin deserves careful evaluation before assumptions are made about its rarity or market value. Professional grading, original surfaces, strong strike quality, desirable color, documented provenance, genuine mint errors, and current collector demand all work together to determine where a particular example belongs within today's marketplace. The careful balance between historical significance and measurable rarity is precisely why this modern Lincoln cent continues to fascinate collectors, reminding us that even one of America's smallest denominations can hold an unexpectedly rich and rewarding place in numismatic history. Next coin. At first glance, the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial cent featuring the Presidency in Washington, D.C. reverse appears to be nothing more than another modern penny that quietly passed through cash registers and pocket change across America. Yet among Lincoln cent specialists, this final design in the 4-coin bicentennial series has earned a reputation as one of the most historically meaningful modern circulating coins produced by the United States Mint. It represents the culmination of Abraham Lincoln's extraordinary journey from a humble frontier childhood to the presidency during one of the nation's darkest chapters. While millions of these coins were struck and spent, only a fraction have survived with the combination of pristine preservation, exceptional strike quality, and original mint surfaces that advanced collectors seek today. As this documentary unfolds, you'll discover why certain authenticated examples command remarkable attention in the numismatic marketplace, how professional grading dramatically influences desirability, and which characteristics have separated ordinary circulation pieces from the finest known examples that have achieved impressive results at public auction. The release of this coin in 2009 marked the conclusion of an ambitious commemorative program celebrating the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Rather than honoring Lincoln with a single special design, the United States Mint chose to tell his life story through 4 circulating reverse designs issued during the year, each illustrating a different stage of his remarkable journey. The Presidency reverse was the final chapter, depicting the unfinished United States Capitol dome under construction while Lincoln served as president during the Civil War. The imagery was carefully selected because construction on the Capitol continued even as the nation faced tremendous internal conflict, symbolizing Lincoln's determination to preserve the Union and maintain faith in the country's future despite extraordinary hardship. The reverse was designed by Susan Gamble and sculpted by Joseph Menner, while Victor David Brenner's classic portrait of Lincoln remained on the obverse, preserving a design that had become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage since 1909. Together, the obverse and reverse create a powerful historical narrative that extends far beyond the coin's modest denomination. The Denver Mint, identified by the distinctive D Mint mark beneath the date on the obverse, produced this circulation issue using the standard composition employed for Lincoln cents beginning in the early 1980s. Each coin consists of a core of 97.5% zinc coated with a thin layer of 2.5% copper, resulting in a weight of approximately 2.5 grams, a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and a plain edge. Although hundreds of millions of Denver examples were manufactured using high-speed coining presses, mass production did not guarantee flawless quality. During 2009, the United States continued recovering from the severe financial crisis that erupted the previous year, creating a period of economic uncertainty while this historically significant coin entered circulation. The Mint maintained rigorous production schedules to satisfy commercial demand, Yet the realities of modern coinage meant that many pieces received contact marks almost immediately after striking as they were transporting in large containers. Those minor abrasions, invisible to most people during everyday transactions, later became important grading factors that separated average examples from elite collector pieces. Collectors examining a 2009 Presidency sent under magnification quickly learn that subtle differences in preservation can produce enormous differences in desirability. Professional grading services evaluate these coins using the Sheldon scale, assigning numerical grades that reflect overall condition while also considering strike quality, luster, and surface preservation. Copper-plated Lincoln cents receive additional color designations of brown, red-brown, or red, with fully original red examples typically attracting the strongest collector demand because they retain nearly all of the brilliant copper color present when the coin left the mint. Even among red specimens, microscopic contact marks, faint hairlines, or incomplete striking pressure can prevent a coin from reaching the highest mint state grades. A beautifully preserved, professionally authenticated mint state 67 red example with outstanding eye appeal may command approximately $1,350 to $2,250 depending on certification, market conditions, and collector competition. Lower mint state examples remain popular among Lincoln specialists, but the highest certified grades become increasingly elusive because maintaining virtually flawless surfaces from the moment of striking is extraordinarily difficult. Beyond conventional grading, experienced numismatists devote considerable attention to legitimate mint errors and recognize die varieties associated with this issue. Every newly discovered variety receives careful scrutiny before being accepted by the collecting community, and only well-documented examples achieve widespread recognition. Collectors routinely inspect these cents for doubled dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, retained cuds, and other production anomalies that occurred inside the mint before the coins entered circulation. It is important to distinguish genuine mint-made errors from damage that occurred later during normal use, because scratches, dents, heat damage, chemical exposure, and post-mint alterations can sometimes imitate authentic production mistakes. Whenever an unusual coin appears, professional authentication becomes essential before assigning substantial value. Significant certified mint errors are uncommon, and exceptional examples have realized several $1,000s at auction when rarity, visual appeal, and collector demand align. However, such results apply only to authenticated error coins or unusually high-grade survivors, not to every ordinary 2009 Presidency cent found in circulation. Authentication has become increasingly important as interest in modern Lincoln Bicentennial coinage continues to expand. Reputable third-party grading services carefully verify dimensions, weight, metallic composition, strike characteristics, and surface originality before encapsulating qualifying coins in tamper-evident holders. Although counterfeiters generally focus on more valuable classic American coins, deceptive alterations occasionally appear in the marketplace, including artificial tunning, manipulated surfaces, fabricated errors, or misleading claims regarding varieties that have never been officially recognized. Serious collectors compare suspected pieces with documented reference photographs published by established numismatic organizations and rely on certified examples whenever substantial money is involved. One of the greatest threats to long-term value remains improper cleaning. Even gentle polishing can permanently disturb the delicate copper plating, eliminate natural mint luster, and dramatically reduce a coin's appeal to advanced collectors. Proper preservation requires handling only by the edges, storing coins in archival quality holders free of PVC, maintaining stable temperature and humidity, and protecting surfaces from fingerprints, moisture, and airborne contaminants that gradually affect appearance over time. As population reports have evolved, collectors have gained a better understanding of how few truly elite examples survive despite the coin's enormous original production. Registry set competition has intensified demand for the finest certified specimens because many advanced collectors strive to assemble complete Lincoln cent collections featuring the highest available grades from every issue. Coins certified at the very top of the grading scale remain remarkably scarce relative to the original mintage, largely because tiny imperfections acquired during manufacturing, shipping, or storage prevented most examples from achieving near-perfect preservation. Authenticated mint state 68 red coins, when available, have generated significant attention among specialists, with examples sometimes bringing roughly $2,900 to $3,900 depending on certification, eye appeal, provenance, and prevailing market demand. These impressive prices should never be interpreted as typical values for ordinary circulation coins. Instead, they reflect the intense competition that develops when an exceptionally preserved modern issue becomes available to collectors seeking the finest known representatives of an important historical design. The lasting significance of the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial Presidency cent extends far beyond its role as pocket change, because it successfully transformed a 1-cent coin into a miniature historical monument celebrating leadership during one of America's defining eras. Every authentic example preserves a visual reminder of Lincoln's presidency and the unfinished Capitol dome that symbolized perseverance while the nation endured civil war. For collectors, the coin also demonstrates that rarity is determined not simply by mintage, but by the far more complex relationship between survival, preservation, originality, certification, and sustained collector demand. Whether discovered in an original mint roll, preserved inside an annual mint set, or acquired through a respected auction house, each specimen deserves careful evaluation before conclusions are drawn about its significance. Professional grading, untouched surfaces, vibrant original color, sharp strike quality, legitimate mint characteristics, and reliable authentication ultimately determine where an individual coin belongs within today's marketplace. The combination of historical symbolism, modern collectability, and measurable rarity ensures that the 2009 Presidency reverse will remain one of the defining chapters in the continuing story of the Lincoln cent series for generations of numismatists to come. Next up, most people would never pause after receiving a 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial cent with the professional life reverse in their change, yet experienced collectors often do exactly that. At first glance, it appears to be another modern penny with a different back, but a careful examination quickly reveals why this issue has become the subject of serious attention among Lincoln cent specialists. The fascination has very little to do with the coin's face value and everything to do with the details hidden in plain sight. As we examine it together, the investigation becomes surprisingly methodical. Every line in the design, every trace of original mint luster, every tiny contact mark, and every feature left behind during the striking process helps tell the story of an individual coin. Later, you'll discover why some authenticated examples have become especially desirable in the collector market, and how professional grading, preservation, rarity, and genuine originality separate ordinary circulation pieces from the exceptional survivors that have earned impressive collector recognition. Turning the coin over reveals one of the most symbolic designs ever placed on a circulating Lincoln cent. Issued during 2009 as the third release in the United States Mint's 4-coin bicentennial series, celebrating the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the reverse illustrates Lincoln standing confidently as a young lawyer in Springfield, Illinois. He is shown before the old Illinois state capitol, representing the years in which his legal career shaped the reasoning, discipline, and leadership that eventually carried him to the presidency. The reverse was designed by Joel Iskowitz and sculpted by Don Everhart, while Victor David Brenner's enduring portrait of Lincoln remained on the obverse, maintaining the familiar appearance Americans had recognized for generations. Rather than simply honoring Lincoln as president, this design focuses on the period when he refined his character through the practice of law, reminding collectors that great leadership often develops long before history takes notice. The coin, therefore, serves as a miniature historical document, preserving an important chapter in Lincoln's personal journey within the nation's smallest circulating denomination. The investigation becomes even more interesting when the technical characteristics are considered. Like other circulation Lincoln cents produced during this period, the professional life issue consists of a zinc core plated with copper, giving it a composition of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. Each piece weighs approximately 2.5 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and features a plain edge. Business strikes were produced at both the Philadelphia Mint, which carries no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, identified by the small d beneath the date, while proof versions were struck in San Francisco with an S mint mark for collector sets. Together, the Philadelphia and Denver facilities produced hundreds of millions of circulation examples, ensuring that Americans across the country encountered the design during everyday transactions. Yet despite this enormous production, relatively few examples survived exactly as they left the coining presses. The reason is simple. Pennies experience constant circulation, and because of their low purchasing power, they often remain in commerce far longer than larger denominations, accumulating scratches, discoloration, and countless small impacts that permanently affect their condition. Looking closely at an individual coin quickly reveals why experienced collectors spend so much time studying seemingly minor details. The first inspection almost always begins with the date and mint mark, confirming the issue before attention shifts to strike quality. Specialists examine Lincoln's hair, the folds of his coat, the architectural details of the state capitol, and the sharpness of every letter in the inscriptions. Strongly struck examples display crisp design elements with minimal softness, while weaker strikes may leave portions of the artwork lacking full definition. Surface preservation becomes equally important. Contact marks across Lincoln's cheek, dull luster, fingerprints, or tiny abrasions acquired during transportation from the mint can significantly reduce a coin's grade. Color also plays a major role. Professional grading services classify copper-plated Lincoln cents as brown, red-brown, or red. Coins retaining nearly all of their original brilliant mint color receive the coveted red designation and generally attract stronger collector demand because untouched surfaces become increasingly uncommon as oxidation naturally darkens the copper plating over time. These subtle distinctions often determine whether a coin is viewed as an ordinary survivor or an outstanding collectible. Once curiosity shifts toward value, the investigation becomes even more precise. Professional grading organizations evaluate each coin according to the Sheldon scale, assigning numerical grades from poor 1 through mint state 70, while carefully considering strike quality, luster, originality, and eye appeal. Most circulated examples remain inexpensive because heavy wear and environmental exposure are common. However, a professionally certified mint state 67 red example with excellent eye appeal may bring approximately $1,450 to $2,350 depending on certification, current market demand, and the coin's overall quality. Those figures should never be interpreted as typical values for every 2009 professional life cent. Instead, they illustrate how dramatically condition influences the market. Experienced collectors understand that identical dates can differ enormously in value simply because one specimen preserved its original surfaces while another acquired decades of handling. Every authenticated coin tells its own story, and careful grading provides the language collectors use to describe that story with consistency and precision. No serious investigation would be complete without searching for legitimate mint errors and recognized die varieties. Lincoln cent enthusiasts routinely inspect professional life cents under magnification, hoping to identify authentic double dies, off-center strikes. Clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, retained cuds, or other documented production anomalies created during the minting process. Genuine errors are significantly different from post-mint damage, which includes scratches, corrosion, bending, heat exposure, or mechanical damage sustained after the coin entered circulation. Because altered coins occasionally appear in the marketplace, authentication by respected third-party grading services remains essential whenever an unusual feature is discovered. Collectors should also be cautious of exaggerated online claims involving supposed rare varieties that lack recognition within established numismatic references. When a legitimate and significant mint error receives professional certification, collector demand can increase substantially. Exceptional authenticated error examples have realized several $1,000s in competitive sales, although those remarkable results apply only to verified error coins rather than standard business strikes. Authentication and preservation ultimately determine whether a coin maintains its collector appeal for future generations. Experienced numismatists begin by confirming weight, diameter, metallic composition, edge characteristics, and design details before comparing suspected varieties with documented reference material. Although counterfeiters rarely target ordinary modern cents, deceptive alterations such as artificial tunning, fabricated errors, or modified surfaces occasionally appear, making careful examination worthwhile. One of the quickest ways to reduce a coin's potential value is improper cleaning. Even gentle polishing removes microscopic surface texture and destroys the original mint finish that advanced collectors prize. Instead, properly preserved coins should be handled only by their edges and stored inside inert archival holders, certified slabs, or acid-free coin flips that minimize exposure to moisture and airborne contaminants. Stable environmental conditions help preserve the delicate copper plating and slow the natural tunning process. These simple preservation practices often make the difference between a coin remaining attractive decades later or gradually losing the qualities that collectors value most. When population reports, auction appearances, and long-term collector demand are viewed together, the professional life bicentennial cent reveals why it occupies such an important place within the modern Lincoln cent series. Registry collectors assembling top-ranked sets compete intensely for the finest certified examples because near-perfect modern business strikes are surprisingly scarce despite their enormous original mintages. Coins achieving the highest mint state grades combine exceptional strike quality, vibrant original red color, nearly flawless surfaces, and outstanding eye appeal, qualities that rarely survive years of handling. Authenticated elite examples have occasionally traded within a range of roughly $3,100 to $4,000 when certification, preservation, and collector competition aligned. But such outcomes belong only to the finest known pieces and should never be assumed for ordinary circulation finds. Ultimately, the enduring appeal of the 2009 professional life cent lies not in the possibility of extraordinary value alone, but in the careful investigation it invites. Every examination encourages collectors to slow down, observe closely, question appearances, and appreciate how history, craftsmanship, preservation, and rarity can transform one of America's smallest coins into a genuinely significant artifact of modern numismatics. Last coin. Millions of Americans handled the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial cent featuring the birth and early childhood reverse without giving it a second thought. Yet among dedicated numismatists, this seemingly ordinary 1-cent coin has become the subject of careful study and spirited discussion. Its significance extends far beyond the change jar because it represents the opening chapter in one of the most ambitious commemorative circulating coin programs ever produced by the United States Mint. Most people notice only that the reverse looks different, but experienced collectors immediately begin searching for clues that reveal whether an individual example is simply another circulated cent or a remarkably well-preserved survivor worthy of professional attention. As this story unfolds, we'll examine why certain authenticated examples have attracted serious collector interest, how grading and originality influence desirability, and what the marketplace has revealed about exceptional specimens. But the real mystery begins with understanding why a coin produced in enormous numbers can still command respect among advanced collectors. The story starts in 2009, exactly 2 centuries after the birth of Abraham Lincoln, whose influence on American history remains difficult to overstate. Rather than issuing a single commemorative reverse, the United States Mint created a 4-design series illustrating the major stages of Lincoln's remarkable life. The first release, known as the Birth and Early Childhood design, portrays the humble log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky, where Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809. The image is intentionally simple, emphasizing modest beginnings rather than future greatness. Designed by Richard Masters and sculpted by Jim Licoretz, the reverse contrasts beautifully with Victor David Brenner's familiar portrait of Lincoln on the obverse, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Together, the two sides transform an everyday circulating coin into a visual biography spanning the distance between an isolated frontier cabin and one of the most consequential presidencies in American history. The symbolism reminds collectors that extraordinary leadership often begins in the most ordinary circumstances. The timing of this release added another layer of historical significance. America was still coping with the effects of the financial crisis that had erupted in 2008, and economic uncertainty shaped daily life across the country as the bicentennial cents entered circulation. Despite challenging financial conditions, the United States Mint proceeded with the commemorative program, ensuring that millions of Americans encountered a fresh reminder of Lincoln's perseverance during difficult times. Business strike examples were produced at both the Philadelphia Mint, which carries no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, identified by the familiar D beneath the date, while specially prepared proof versions bearing the S mint mark were struck in San Francisco for collector sets. Like other circulating Lincoln cents of the era, these coins consist of a zinc core coated with copper, giving them a composition of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. Each weighs approximately 2.5 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and features a plain edge. Although hundreds of millions were struck, high-speed production and the realities of commercial distribution meant that pristine examples became surprisingly scarce almost immediately after leaving the mint. For serious collectors, the investigation begins not with rarity, but with observation. The date and mint mark receive the first glance, followed immediately by a careful evaluation of strike quality. On superior examples, the log cabin displays crisp lines, the surrounding landscape appears sharply defined, and every letter in the inscriptions remains bold and complete. Weaker strikes can soften fine architectural details or diminish the clarity of the design. Original mint luster also plays a critical role. Freshly struck copper-plated cents possess a bright, reflective appearance that gradually fades through circulation and oxidation. Professional grading services classify these coins according to both numerical grade and color designation, identifying them as brown, red-brown, or red, depending on the amount of original mint color that survives. Collectors consistently favor fully red examples because they retain the vibrant appearance present when the coin first emerged from the dies. Even tiny contact marks acquired during transport can influence the final grade, making preservation just as important as rarity when determining long-term desirability. As attention shifts from history to the marketplace, condition becomes the defining factor. The Sheldon grading scale provides the universal language used by professional grading services, with mint state examples receiving the highest evaluations among circulation strikes. Most surviving bicentennial cents entered commerce and accumulated the ordinary signs of handling expected from everyday pocket change. However, coins preserved with virtually untouched surfaces, strong luster, and exceptional eye appeal are far less common than original mintage figures might suggest. A professionally authenticated mint state 67 red example may trade in the vicinity of approximately $1,600 to $2,500, depending upon certification, market demand, originality, and overall visual quality. Those values should never be viewed as typical for every 2009 birth and early childhood cent. Instead, they illustrate how dramatically preservation, grading accuracy, and collector competition influence the modern market. Two coins sharing the same date can differ enormously in desirability simply because one remained virtually flawless while the other experienced years of circulation. Beyond condition, advanced collectors devote significant attention to legitimate mint errors and recognized die varieties. Every unusual coin deserves careful examination before assumptions are made about its rarity. Specialists routinely search for authenticated double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, retained cuds, and other production anomalies documented within established numismatic references. At the same time, caution is essential because scratches, environmental damage, heat exposure, and post-mint alterations frequently imitate genuine mint errors. Reliable authentication by respected third-party grading services remains the safest approach whenever an apparently unusual example is discovered. While important certified mint errors involving this issue have achieved impressive auction results, no responsible collector assumes that every unusual-looking coin is automatically valuable. Extraordinary prices belong only to verified examples possessing documented mint-made characteristics, superior preservation, and sustained collector demand. Distinguishing between authentic production anomalies and ordinary damage is one of the most important skills any serious numismatist develops. Proper preservation ensures that today's collectible examples remain desirable for future generations. Experienced collectors avoid touching coin surfaces directly, handling scents only by their edges to prevent fingerprints and oils from affecting the delicate copper plating. Storage inside inert archival holders, certified grading slabs, or high-quality non-PVC flips helps protect surfaces from humidity, airborne contaminants, and accidental abrasion. Cleaning, polishing, or attempting to brighten a coin almost always causes permanent damage by removing microscopic surface texture and original mint luster that cannot be restored. Authentication also includes confirming weight, diameter, composition, lettering style, and design details to guard against deceptive alterations or fabricated varieties. Although counterfeiters rarely focus on ordinary modern Lincoln cents, altered examples and misleading online claims occasionally appear, making careful research and comparison with established reference materials increasingly important. The most respected collections are built not through speculation, but through patience, documentation, and disciplined evaluation supported by reliable grading standards. Over time, population reports, auction records, and registry competition have demonstrated that exceptional examples of the birth and early childhood bicentennial cent occupy a meaningful place within the broader Lincoln cent series. Collectors pursuing top-ranked registry sets compete vigorously whenever unusually well-preserved specimens become available, because near-perfect modern circulation strikes remain surprisingly elusive despite their enormous original production. Authenticated elite-grade examples with outstanding red color, sharp strikes, and nearly flawless surfaces have realized values approaching roughly $3,300 to $4,000 under favorable market conditions. But those results belong only to certified coins exhibiting extraordinary quality rather than ordinary circulation pieces. Their significance lies not merely in monetary value, but in the remarkable combination of historical symbolism, modern craftsmanship, and exceptional preservation. More than 2 centuries after Lincoln's birth, this small copper-plated cent continues to remind collectors that history often survives in the objects people overlook every day. Sometimes the smallest coin opens the door to the biggest discoveries.